Hey, Pyrotechnics here, joined by Nif, coach of Elements. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Elements as an organization before I get into coaching, because you've been one of the longest standing players turned coaches, and you've experienced a lot of changes with this org. Elements last year was a lot more chaotic. This year it seems very stable. Despite your losses, you guys seem upbeat. What can you tell me about the differences and how things have changed in the last year?
I think the main difference is that last year we came in to the New Year season after we won the 2014 summer split, so we had really high expectations. So getting the 7th place was really not what we expected coming into it, and we were kind of desperate. We really were desperately looking for a fix, and it just didn't work out. No matter what we did. So I think it's a really good thing that we changed completely now and had a fresh start. I mean, unluckily, we are still on the 7th place, but I think things are going pretty well, and we will see how it keeps going.
Absolutely. There's always, room to even go up further than there, and I think everyone has a very good attitude about it. For yourself, as a player that has become a coach, what is one of the biggest lessons, the biggest takeaways you've had in this transition from player on stage to the coach presiding over these now, younger players that are coming together?
I think the biggest thing that I learned is that you need to have a game plan, and you need to know at every stage of the game what you want to do. And when I started playing, we just played for fun, and we had an idea of what we want to do, but we got lost a lot of times. And I think once I transitioned to a coach, I really understood how the game should be played, and you could do so much on the map. And then when I looked back on all the games, I was just looking and kind of face-falling. Oh, I did so many mistakes. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Bird's eye view gives you a lot more perspective. Very true. And for other coaches, generally speaking, just all across the board, what do you think is the most important value, important quality that a coach in the European LCS has to have?
I think the biggest thing is that you need authority. That's also, I think, one thing I might have lacked last season. But I think now it's really good. So I think you need authority, and you need to keep the team together so that the team atmosphere is really good, and that's the most important thing.
Atmosphere very good, and just keeping it together, however that is, if you're doing it in a friendly way or if you're baking the lasagna, doing anything else, right? So thank you for taking the time to join me, Nif, and good luck ahead of your game today. So that's it for us.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our next contest moments away. Let's take a look at the two teams and their lineups. On the blue end of Summoner's Rift, it is Vitality, top lane Cabashard, jungle Shook, mid lane Nuke Duck, AD carry Hyanan, support Kasing, and coach Shawns.
Elements on the red side, Pulse saying hey as well. Steve in the top lane, Gilius in the jungle, ICAS mid laner, Rallis, AD carry, Spratler support, and we just heard from Nif, a good interview with him, learning more about his transition as a player coming into coaching, then actually went back to playing, and now he's then back to being a coach, probably for full time.
Yeah, I always like saying Shook and Nuke Duck. I feel like a rap god, but anyway, let's talk about these teams real quick. Elements, they always seem to come in prepared, right? They almost seem like...
They say so.
They say so, but to me, they're almost like the rock out of last split, right? They're always so good in scrims, and then they go on stage, and it doesn't really happen.
Right, I mean, every week, Gilius is tweeting, oh, we were great in scrims this week. It was awesome. I'm so ready for the LCS. And then when they get on stage, it's a very different team, clearly, because they don't have the same success when they are here. A lot of it probably comes from how they have some super, super aggressive members, in terms of playstyle, like Gilius is a guy who's never afraid to make a big play, but when you get on stage, it's just so different compared to scrimming. And every coach talks about it, every player talks about it. You start hesitating more and being like, should I do it? And then just by thinking that, you lose that 1 second you were supposed to do that sick, jump to a ward and flash and kick someone back. It's already gone if you just delayed 1 second. And that's what happens super often for Elements. The macro game suffers, and then the individual aggressive plays suffer. I talked to Gilius yesterday while we were getting makeup, and he was just like, I'm just going to tell my team to just go crazy, man. We just got to run forward. We have to play aggressive now because we're not winning playing full late game and playing super passive. We need to try and make some plays. And I want to see that from Elements, because they have to do it if they want to take down Vitality. I mean, this is the best team in Europe right now.
I mean, at some point, you've got to start tempering that, but I mean, before you start tempering, you need to make it happen in the first place, right?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that's what I want to see from Elements in this game. Maybe we can see a big change up in their picks and bans as well that we saw from Fnatic. Like, they completely shifted, which completely threw Rocket off. So maybe Elements will change up their picks and ban style. We're going to see as we get these bans coming out. Alistair and Elise coming in from Vitality, Gangplank and Kalista in from Elements.
And if any team is going to leave Nidalee open, I think it is a team like Elements, because Gilius is a very strong Lee Sin player, and Lee Sin is one of the picks who can do okay into Nidalee, especially at level 6. You actually will have some kill pressure. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Elements leave it open, bait it as a first pick, and then take the Lee Sin as not the counter, but the pick into it from Gilius, and say like, we're okay sacrificing that first pick. Also, I don't think Shook yesterday utilized Nidalee 100%, but he actually did what was needed from his team. Like, he didn't necessarily win the game alone, but he by no means played poorly.
Found a ban of Lulu coming out from Elements, and last ban of Lux coming in.
But that's a good Graves as well. Like, they have done that before, but this is the Nidalee we talked about, and Gilius is going to play either say, I'm going to take the matchup, skill matchup, you can get Lee Sin, get level 6, and then try and beat you, or he's just going to go Gragas and be like, let's team fight, boys.
Well, Kavashar did wink at the camera, so maybe Graves is on the way. We'll see.
I think it's coming, because we know Steve plays it as well, and it would be fun to watch Kavashar lose to the pick he introduced himself to the European LCS with the Graves top.
Well, we'll see if that comes to light. First pick was Nidalee, taking that away from Gilius in the early game. You already mentioned Lee Sin as a potential pick from Gilius. Can pick that later on here, get the priority of Lucian, and also the Thresh for Spraddle.
Yeah, Thresh is a very good early pick against Vitality. Not only is it the main pick for Kasing, it also stops the Zillion Bard combo, because the way that it works with the Lantern from Thresh, if you get ulted by the Bard and then a double bomb from Zillion comes on, normally you would then get stunned right after the Bard ulti is gone, and then you die. Lantern actually works the way you can click the Lantern. I don't know why, but you can. And then you actually get pulled out and you don't get stunned and you don't die. So he stops that combo, and that's why Vitality's not going to run it. They learned that during the H2K game, and they were surprised.
We were surprised. Everyone was surprised. It was crazy. We were wondering if it was like a frame-perfect thing that you had to do, but it was getting consistently done against them. So, yeah, we're not going to see that combo come out today. Tam Kench will be picked up, however. Most likely going to the top lane, but we've seen it flexed into support in recent days. Corki also picked up.
And let's get Lissandra Lee Sin. I would like it from Elements, because I want to see them make plays. Help Iken that mid lane if he's playing the Lissandra. He's been struggling. We saw it from Fnatic in the last game. Once you get level 6, like, you can set up some very, very good plays, and it's still a flex pick. So you're not showing your both your soul laners by taking early Lissandra here. I like the pick. Yes, you're gonna get poked down by the Corki in lane, but you get level 6 and then you play aggressive. Gilius not taking the matchup though, and I
don't know, man.
Now I feel like Elements jump into the let's go late game again.
I mean, it's very much like a team pick coming out from the Gragas, but like Gilius is one of those junglers. I'm like, if you can go Lee Sin here, go for it, man. Like, especially
because Gragas loses so hard to Nidalee in the early game, and you have Corki most likely mid lane for Nuke Dog, so you have a pushing lane for Vitality that enables the Nidalee to play very aggressive towards the enemy jungle and actually punish Gragas, especially pre-level 6, and try and deny him a lot of farm and spot him all the time. Making it a very passive early game suddenly for Elements, because you're kind of surrendering some of the pressure in mid lane. Victor needs to get his first Hex Core upgrade before he can start pushing back against the Corki. So I would like to see Elements kind of maybe go to what they're playing in streams. We don't actually know what they're playing, but I would assume very aggressive comps and doing well early on. Can of course still put their Corki as an AD carry and then get the Quinn for Nuke Dog mid. And it's the same. Pressure early game. Pressure in the lane. Allow Nidalee to roam in. Nautilus, what does he do? He pushes the lane from level 1 because his E does, I don't know how much crazy damage.
A lot.
A lot. That's a crazy a lot damage. No, you guys can check the number. He has very high base damage on his E, and then you can very easily clear the wave. So you have 2 solo laners now that's going to early push for Vitality. And then Nidalee says, oh, thank you very much. I'm now going to invade into the enemy jungle because my soul laners can follow.
So what are we going to see now? Is it going to be Graves drafted into the Northless, and then Kavashar actually gets to play up against the Graves in the top lane from Steve? Because it's going to be a top lane pick coming out here. Unless the Graves flex to the top lane, we've seen in Challenger, but Sartorius is the only guy I've seen ever really do that recently. So
yeah, I mean, Graves would be fine when it comes to just playing the laning phase and try and push back against the Nautilus. So I think that's going to be the pick as well for Steve, just again to avoid having 2 solo laners losing early on. Bot lane, Lucian Thresh is a good lane, especially against Tam Kench Corki. So very high chance Vitality will opt into a lane swap now.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, is actually a good thing for the Gragas, because it means he doesn't get invaded by Nidalee 1v1. So Elements with their lane assignments are kind of saying, if you get standard lanes, we have a good 2v2 bot lane and we have the Graves top. Great. Now we just got to worry about mid lane and then the Nidalee. If it's a lane swap, fine. Our Gragas now gets to farm to level 6. He's more than fine with that as well.
So probably going to see that in the early game. We'll see which team decides to initiate it, but we'll be getting into this game very shortly. So very interesting compositions. Quinn mid has been very fun to watch. I mean, it's very explosive and actually has a lot of kill pressure in lane versus a lot of mid laners right now who are just like kind of farm mids. You've got like Lissandra and Victor, and it's like, we're going to farm waves like 20 minutes and I'm going to join the team.
Quinn is definitely very different. You know, as soon as you can get out of the lane, you do, and you start going to the side lanes and you just ward up your river with pinks and then push it out with Quinn, and she then pops her ulti and like roams around the map crazily. Crazily, is that a word?
Yeah,
not
you
sure.
can use that in that context. Absolutely.
There you go.
Artificial.
English lessons.
There we go. And jump on Twitter and teach us some English. And also vote on this game. Hashtag VIT win and hashtag EL win to get in your vote for this matchup. We'll see how this one will turn out. And ultimately, that was actually Northless swapping back up. You saw them at the 22nd mark where they have to swap it around. And then Cabochard will be taking that one to the Rift. But it's the final match of Week 7 here at the European LCS ahead of Katowice. So we'll see how this all shakes out as we get onto the Rift with Vitality and Elements.
And it's a crazy world we're living in. When Cabochard the last 2 weeks have been playing more utility and carries. Lulu top lane, Nautilus top lane twice now.
It's a mad world.
It is crazy, but it has been one of the things about Vitality. Going from the strong individual players everyone wants to carry to building comps like a team, playing like a team, good macro strategy coming in for them. So it's definitely been some very good weeks for Vitality. The team will start a little bit up and down. 5 new members being put together. I guess 4 because Shuk and Yanin and Kising obviously had played together. And yeah, it took a bit of time, but they've been really, really performing the last few weeks.
Definitely on the upswing. Very interesting to kind of track the teams who are doing very well at the start of the split and kind of hit the ground running.
So the setup for Vitality here, it looks a bit weird, but they're actually hoping for Elements to invade in on top side with like Rallis and Sprattle to stop a potential blue buff start from Vitality. So they're waiting around the corner and having Cabochard beta being like, oh, I'm just a top laner who's scouting on top side. You know, nothing is going on here. They would invade in, Cabochard would move over to the blue buff then. They would follow him in to stop him and push him away from the jungle into the lane swap. And then they would stand around the corner and just destroy him. But Elements said, we're not really going to invade today. And it doesn't give anything for Vitality, but they don't really lose anything either.
No. So we will actually get standard lanes here. So we're going to see the 2v2 in bot lane, taking like a Keystones. Anything really jumping out at you here, Deficient? Nothing's really jumping out to me. Strength of the Ages for the junglers, which is fairly standard nowadays. Strength of the Ages is so good for that early health. Bot lane, Bond of Stone. Top lane, Fervor, which is basically what we're seeing on every Graves nowadays. The top lane, and the Grass for Nautilus. So, yeah, pretty much standard.
All checks out. And we just saw a quick trade in mid lane with their Thunderlords from Nukeduck. It's one of the big things about Quinn and why she's so good at level 1. Is because it's very easy to get the 3 attacks that procs the Thunderlords, and then of course like proc your own passive as well. So like your level 1 trade is super strong, and Ika took a big hit from it, and that often means you have to step a bit further back in lane, surrendering how fast you can auto-attack minions, and that means Nukeduck can auto-attack himself and then push the wave in and get that early pressure.
That's actually the worst when you have to move away from your minions though, because as soon as you get hit by Blinding Assault, you've just lost the trade. I mean, like a lot of the trades revolve around not getting hit by Blinding Assault. Once you do, well, I can't see them, so I can't hit skill shots, I can't even auto-attack them, so then you have to run away or just try and sidestep and just guess where the skill shot's going.
And Ika running teleport in this game on Victor. We don't see it often because Victor doesn't really have any side lane pressure. Obviously, when it comes to him just porting back to mid lane in lane, it works, but it does leave you fairly weak in this 1v1. Not having exhaust against a Quinn trying to all-in you as an example. It's going to be more like trying to push it out, and then if you get poked down, you can then recall and TP back to lane and keep the pressure going, because Nukeduck is obviously not going to stack potions. He's starting only with 1 because of the Dawn's Blade. So you actually want to trade quite a lot early. If you're Ika, use your double potion, and then you have TP advantage, where Nukeduck has to recall and run back to lane. Problem is, Quinn is trading so effectively early on, Ika is getting pushed back to the tower, and then you can't trade because now you're using your spells and your auto attacks on last hitting on the tower instead of hitting the enemy champion.
Well, it's kind of like a declaration of intent, right, from Icarus. It's like, look, I'm probably not going to win this mid lane matchup. I'll go for teleport so I can port back to lane. I can farm up against it. Yes, I'm going to lose some minions early game before I get my Hex Tech upgrade coming into E, but if I actually die in lane, that actually would suck a lot. He's ticking down from the Ignite, but he should be good to go. He popped a potion, and now he'll go back to base. That was the flash burn for the Ignite, so massive win for Nukeduck.
Just flashing in between the auto attack timers of Nukeduck, and Nukeduck didn't want to follow on straight flashes for the kill, and that's where we get the TP back. But again, the issue is you haven't actually forced a potion from Nukeduck. So now you end up TPing back, and you're down a summoner in terms of combat because you have teleport. And Nukeduck didn't lose anything because he can now just shove in the wave and recall, and then he gets a good back. So it's very good trading from Nukeduck, and it's something he's been doing more and more in this Quinn, and why he really likes the pick. One of the few players in Europe playing it mid lane.
Yeah, Nukeduck's definitely been bringing a couple funky things to the mid lane, like was one of the first to bring Zilean in there, now with the Quinn as well. Looks like he's going back to base. Talking about this bottom lane, Hyeonan and Kasing. That's just Tamkench versus Tamkench and Corki, so not too much to talk about. There'll be even on farm out of his laning phase. Shook, he's in his own jungle, so not too much going on. He will definitely be faster farming through his jungle though, and should be getting into Gillis's jungle at some point, especially with mid lane winning and Capuchon now pushing.
Well, it is harder because of their Graves pick, who can at least push back against the Nautilus, so you don't have that easy path from the top laner to help you invade. And also in the bottom lane, Tamkench Corki is mainly just looking to farm. They're not really looking to out-trade you and out-push you. So if we have to invade from Shook, it is technically only Nukeduck who's winning his lane in terms of early pressure. And he's the only guy who can then follow. So it's not, I don't think it's enough for Shook to say, okay, I'm just going to fully invest denying the Gragas. It's still going to happen more now that we're going to start seeing the Nidalee like team up with the Quinn when she gets to tower, heal her, get a few hits on tower. Then, you know, you start going down to the bottom lane, because when you have a Tamkench, you can set up some dives where Tamkench can then eat you. Whoever's tanking the tower, Tamkench can eat that guy, and then pull him out, of course, of the tower aggro. So you can start making plays on the bottom side, like around level 6 and 7, and set up a dive with TP from Capuchon. Vitality are fine farming for now, and just kind of wait for a few more levels, and then we can start seeing the more aggressive plays with Shook.
Yeah, when people hit level 6, Capuchon just getting there now. Nukeduck also just hitting at level 6 mark. Gilius waiting, of course, for that level 6 for the explosive cast, very big for the Gragas play. But he's kind of just done his job. Like, surviving until level 6 is really big for Gragas, because usually if you're in like a Nidalee matchup or an aggressive early jungler, and you get found in the jungle, you're just going to get dunked and they're going to take your lunch money. But so far, 6 minutes into the game, this is the first time Shook's really set foot in that opposing jungle.
And you can see Nukeduck. This is again what we talk about. He's the man who's pushing his lane. Instantly, he's moving into the jungle. He doesn't have to follow Shook, but he needs to be around. He needs to be a threat. So the elements know, okay, if we take a fight against Shook now, Nukeduck will be the first one to react, and he's going to show up a lot faster than Ica. And therefore, we can't take that trade. We have to just let Shook dance around, sit down whatever wards. If there was a camp, he could steal it. Actually ends up going into the jungle where Gilius was, so he didn't gain anything. Nice little hook from Sprattle, just sending a message.
Yeah, not so much of a death sentence, but they'll back away there. Just get a few more pieces of farm before they back off, and they should resolve as Hyeonan picks that up against the turret. In terms of item builds, Shin just being picked up by Hyeonan there, BS Sword picked up by Ralez. I mean, there's been no real pressure in the bottom lane, so they're just going to hit the normal spikes.
It was actually an interesting timing for Shook's invade, because Ralez and Sprattle obviously did a camp level 1. So most junglers want to start on top side, because your dual lane is going to do a camp on bottom side. So Shook should have known when the red buff would respawn. And he decided to invade a minute before, when there was no camps to take and no red buff to contest. And therefore he actually hasn't really done anything against Gilius. Gilius then walked back and be like, okay, my red is up and you've now left my jungle. Yep. Take my red buff for free, that's fine. Go in towards my blue buff now, and at least Gragas is level 6, so he can actually fight. And he can set up a potential kill on Shook if he goes in with other members roaming from elements. So timing a little bit off in the invade, but Vitality playing it very, very safe in the laning phase.
Yeah, paying elements a lot of respect, and that's something that they maybe didn't really show Giants the other day. Kasing was saying they definitely disrespected them as he got into like mid-game, late-game, and that's why
5-6k gold ahead as well.
Kind of stalled out. They lost a bunch of fights because they were just like, we can just close out the game, and then Giants definitely stalled it out. And Giants were looking pretty good today as well, definitely on the upswing, but still, Vitality is a superior team. They just need to, you know, not let it slip when they have the advantage against like the lower tier teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to like blame a team for saying we have 5,000-6,000 gold ahead. We're playing against one of the weaker teams. We have full control. Personally, I don't have an issue with it. People can call it like Clown Fiesta, whatever they want. Obviously, Vitality, as Kasing said, it's kind of playing it fairly relaxed in that sense.
Yeah.
But you don't start the game that way. That's the big one. That's the disrespect you don't want to have. When you start the game, when you play out first 25 minutes, you play super serious. And then you see where you are after 20-25 minutes if you can start relaxing a little bit. Spraddle looking for another hook. Gillis gonna gank him, and oh, he's surprising Vitality going for Kasing.
He pops the box as well. Kasing is dropping low, but he's instantly going to gobble up the Thresh. He's dropping low coming out from the E, and Kasing may actually just go down here. First blood over to Rales. That's a really nice setup by Spraddle.
Yeah, really like it, because he goes in, and like normally you always aim to hook the AD carry, but in this case, Kasing can just eat that AD carry then and like take him out with him. So Kasing clearly got surprised, ends up getting hooked and dies. Steve on top lane though.
Lining him up for the Javelin coming out from Shook. He's actually carrying around this tower, and Shook should be able to take him down. Gets the flash away from the tower. Ica responds, but it's just a couple seconds too late to really capitalize on them underneath the tower.
And this again was part of the game plan for Vitality. Just play it fairly safe, get a few more levels, and then you can still use that Nidalee to set up these aggressive dives. You can still start invading into the jungle because you are still very strong. Super easy dive for them. They get another teleport from Ica. First one used back to lane. Second one used top lane now. Too late to actually do anything, and could probably have cancelled it when he saw Steve was gonna die. Because now again, he has no summoners he can use in this fight against Nuke Dog.
Pops the ultimate down onto him. Kasing's in the mid lane.
Licks the tower.
The tongue glass goes wide onto the tower. Unfortunately, does not do damage. Now Rift Herald will be going over to Vitality as well. It's interesting in the top lane because we're like, okay, only mid lane's going to have that pressure, and Shook may not be able to invade because of that, and Cabochard will be pushed in by Graves. Cabochar's been pushing for this entire game into the Graves with his E alone, and actually getting a farm differential even before that game happened.
Well, so two things have been happening in that lane. Early on, we actually saw Steve push it in, but then what always happens if you have the early push, you want to push it all the way into the enemy tower, so it starts bouncing back slowly.
Yeah.
And then if you are a lot stronger, you can start zoning them off from CS, but obviously Nautilus is so good in the early game himself that you're never going to be able to like zone him completely. So Cabochard has been playing very aggressive in the minion waves, as you talked about. And once you get Balmy Cinder plus your E, you can just like kill these waves so quickly. And that's just made it very difficult for Steve to really do anything against him. And again, we talked about that Nidalee, just set up dives. TP was used from Ica. Steve has his, but no flash. You can potentially make a play on bottom side now with Cabochard TP coming in. And then have Nuke Dog roam first. Like Nuke Dog pushes in the lane now, in mid. He roams into river. And then you start setting up a play on bottom side because best case, it's 5 versus 4 for you because Nuke Dog is going to react a lot faster than their Victor who has to run. There's a TP, there's a ward, sorry, right behind Elements as well.
For the TP.
For the TP. There's even one just above Shook on the other side of the wall. Cabochard has a lot of options if he wants to go in for this one. They might want to push him on the tower though, so they can actually dive them. You see Nuke Dog was already on the bottom side. Just having that threat, and Ica can't do anything against him.
The perfect combo, jumping in with the vulnerable, then hitting with the Q as well, meaning that Ica can't return damage, and that also makes them vulnerable once again. Then you hit them, and then you back away. There's zero counterplay.
Shook should just go mid now. You don't have to go for that dive bot lane. It's still a good option, but just take mid tower here. Poke down with it. Spawn going in though.
Flash hook onto Kasing once again. Gilius is here for the gang, but there's TPs coming in for reaction. Kasing actually just goes down, doesn't even pop the Greyhound. Cabochard now comes into the mix, instantly exhausted out as the Riptide comes through. And Steve was already there, so a nice pickup by Elements. That's another nice 1 for 0 as the push comes in. Vitality can't take this down.
So instead of Elements just waiting for that play to happen, that Vitality could pull off, they say, we're gonna go aggressive then. Nuke Dog was still sitting in mid, so that roam hadn't been set up, where Vitality normally would have him moving, and then the play happened, so he could join in very quickly. I think Vitality could honestly just abandon that bottom lane and say, mid tower is open, because Ica's back in base, just go push it with Shook, and then get a lot of free damage. Elements, what we mentioned, they say, we're gonna go aggressive. TP in, it's a 4v4. Nuke Dog is sitting in mid lane still. So that's how you can prevent that 5 vs 4. And I like the play from Elements, but also Vitality should just have left that bot lane and said, it was a fine play before, it didn't happen because we couldn't push it in fast enough. Go mid instead.
Great setups by Spraddle though. Like those are 2 hooks now that have just been like out of nowhere. The first one actually just swapping what he was going for. The second one also you can argue the same as he flashed forward. You know, Hyanan was there ready to be hooked. He was waiting to try and sidestep or even jump out of the way with Valkyrie. And again, it's on Kasing who at this stage is actually just not that tanky. So well played by Elements at this stage in the game. Top lane still being pushed in. Just to touch on this matchup again, like, I actually feel once you have Sunfire Cape, oh no, Steve. That's not where you want to be. And take extra damage from the Javelin as they jump in. Flash staggering blow, follows up with the Titan's Wrath damage. Shook just raining down the auto attacks and Javelin's coming out, waiting for the takedown. Cabochard even just waits there, takes another tower shot, as clean as it can be.
I think the crowd went shook as he picked up the kill. Sadly for Steve, I mean, we talked about it before. We've seen this. You push it in, Nidalee comes up, Gragas can't really respond, you pick up the kill. Normally you would have to mirror the play, so Gilius would then have to rush bot lane. They're already doing fine in 2v2, so they're getting a tower anyway. I guess this has been happening a few times.
Ticking down. Whoa, that was actually enough damage. I think that was the last tick. I was not expecting him to die there. Perfectly calculated by Nukeduck. That's gotta feel bad.
We've been there a few times where it's been very close.
Yeah.
Finally, Nukeduck gets it down level 11.
I mean, there's a situations where it could tick down and you have full health remaining, but that was just one of the times when you just died. It happens.
I mean, Nukeduck knowing his damage and Ica constantly under pressure in this lane. When this all-in is very easy also when there's no exhaust in the matchup. Because like, Nukeduck is not afraid of dying. He has a Morb and Morgus. He's never gonna die 1v1. And he just has way more damage than Ica. Taking down, gets the kill. Top tower went down as well, and now this mid tower is open.
Oh no.
Oh no!
This is the darkest time. Oh. Ica though. Bible thump. Whoop. Doesn't quite connect. Cabochard maybe still under attack by Sprout. He's good to go. His pink ward's all over the map. Right there, Deficio.
Yeah, sorry, the throat is not really with me today, but I feel like his teleport has hurt Ica more than it's helped him, because every time he has used the teleport, he's actually lost something from it.
Yeah. Whoop. Nice dredge line there, forcing the flash from Rales. Even if he popped the heal there, the movement speed would not have helped him to get out of the... Actually, he didn't even have the heal, so the argument is completely invalid. So forcing the flash, bottom tower will be going down to Vitality, and now the map is opening up, and we see this so much from Vitality, where the early game is like a couple kills, traded back and forth, you know, not very bloody, and then one small mistake, and then it's like tower after tower after tower after kill, and it's just mental. Yeah,
so much comes from just Vitality punishing elements by getting kills in different lanes, and as soon as, again, it breaks this very stale laning phase, as soon as like one guy dies in whatever lane it is, you can just apply pressure on the map because you know you're 5 members and they're only 4. Vitality picked up the kill top, instant took top tower. Nukeduck picks up a kill mid, they pressure mid tower, it's not dead yet, but like it's down to...
It's basically dead.
15-20% now, so it's one more
gold.
push. And then the bottom lane, it's been on the way a few times, Cabochard had TP ready if needed, and once you start picking up these kills, it's just so easy to apply more pressure and start taking down towers. And now you can start roaming. Because Quinn is level 12, she's 2-0, super strong at this point. Rales, oh, he doesn't want to go too close to this one.
No, he does not. He doesn't know Nukeduck's there. And with behind enemy lines, that is a fast Quinn. Kissing over the wall, he's been spotted by that ward. Actually, I think he saw it being placed down as well. A lot of people around this top side. Just Gilius maybe trying to make a play happen. He still doesn't know Quinn's there. Nukeduck moves up into the next bush with the minion wave vision out of there. Tongue Lash doesn't connect once again onto Gilius. Lots of posturing, lots of pushing, but Vitality now back up, secure another small objective, gradually get ahead, we'll give this to a carry.
And with these side lane towers down, you get these very long lanes. I mean, look at what Vitality has here to fight in long lanes. Gilius wants to try and steal it, gets the lantern out, but Time Kench ulti, package from Corki, Nukeduck's own ulti on Quinn, obviously Nidalee who can constantly jump, and then the ulti from Cabochard to connect from pretty far away and then making sure it hits. If you're standing in a long lane, there's a very high chance you get caught out. Because so many members from Vitality can really close some distance. I want to see that package into Time Kench ulti, into Quinn coming up, and just like destroying someone, even outside of our screen. We just don't even get to see it, we just know they're engaging on them. Because they can really punish you if you're pushing side lanes. Cabochard though needs to be a bit careful.
There's the ult, knocks Cabochard against the wall. Titan's Draft will block a lot of that damage. Riptide for the side step and slow down onto Gilius. Pops the ultimate in return. Nice flash out of the way of the hook from Spraddle. Yeah, I should have held it, man.
Yeah, so many good plays from him. Then getting a little bit greedy on the hook. You know the only way for Cabochard to escape is by flashing away. Save it then. Because there's only one place he can really flash at this point. He's close to the wall. Got a Mad Life in there.
Steve, though, nuked up.
We almost saw it.
There we go. I mean, it was close enough, and that was a nice rotation into the bottom lane. Steve, kind of more of a drone than a cheer there from the crowd. Yeah.
They gave up.
Feels bad. But yeah, Vitality now pushing down the bottom. There we go. There we got the Steve chance.
I mean, it's been a tough game for him. In that lane, pushed in, dove a few times, tower goes down.
Yeah.
This is a game we talked about the time Kench. It's so easy when you see 3-man on top side. Like, oh, one guy's defending bot, instant time Kench ult in. Couple shot.
Get over here. Get out of here. Gilius is out. So he'll body slam away. Fairly nimble for his size. 2-0 and 2 Shook. He's putting a lot of pressure in this game. Kind of what we expected, honestly, from Captain's Select draft. Mid lane now being pushed in Vitality. Like, I liken their play a lot to just setting up dominance, you know? They just, like, set up one lane, set every lane, just rotate, knock them all over, and you get this, like, 5-minute period in the game that I see, like, every single time where they just expand this huge gold lead.
And I feel like it's just the same again from Elements, where, you know, they want to try and do what they do in scrims, and they want to try and be more aggressive in the way they're playing. And then they draft like this Victor with teleport, which is very slow pick. Like Victor kind of forces a slow game because of his wave clear, and he doesn't roam from his lane. He kind of sits there, and mid laners who can roam speed up the game. They speed up, they create tempo in the game. That's why Quinn is a good mid lane pick, because once she's out of lane, she can so quickly move to other lanes, and therefore she can force a lot of fights, which normally wouldn't happen. If it was a Victor sitting there being like, I just cleared my wave, and now kind of waiting around on my tower. Like, he's obviously not gonna force fights. So again, it kind of slows down Elements, and it makes it tricky for Ica, because he's also losing lane very often. I mean, he's definitely, looking at the mid laners we have in Europe right now, I think, looking at even the other bottom teams, Peppy is a better mid laner, you know, Betsy's been playing super well. So Ica's been struggling, he's been down at the bottom of the rankings, and it's been something that's been hurting Elements and how fast they want to play. Always getting pushed into these slow games.
And it's funny, right? Because he took teleport, almost saying that, like, okay, I'm probably going to lose lane here, so I'm going to teleport back to lane, I'm going to teleport to side lanes and just, you know, become that wave clear, despite them wanting to speed up the game. But then again, they drafted the Gragas versus the Lee Sin when they have the opportunities. So, you know, it's not like they're saying, let's just, you know, play loose and fast, kind of like how we saw early G2 pickup wins. So it doesn't look like Gilius is following through with what he was talking about, right?
I mean, yeah, Gragas is a good pick right now, but does he really fit what it is you're trying to do as a team? Not really, because we know Gilius on the Lee Sin can make big plays. He can surprise. You're not going to beat Vitality playing Vitality's game. You're not really going to aim to go full late game against Vitality, or like say like, yeah, we're definitely not going to fall behind early game if you pick a scaling comp. Versus a team like Vitality, like right now, 5k gold difference, 21 minutes in, 5 kills pushing on mid tower. IK is here and he's getting jumped on instantly.
Depth charge. Takes the javelin as well. He'll go back into lane because he's still able to offer the death ray at long range. Gilius comes in for the engage. Nice flash E and the ultimate, but he's being bursted so quickly. He'll take the lantern, but he still goes down. That was still a death sentence for him. 1-0. Nice pick by Vitality. They should be able to convert this into a tower. Culling use, but Kasing's going to block it, so they have these 2 minions remaining. So they're able to keep up the damage on the tower. Not going to happen just yet. And I think they may even back away. Big wave in the top lane for someone to collect.
Fun to see how they force the wave clear away. Nuktak jumps in, instant ulti from Capo shot, and then Shook just shows up, throws a spear just to chunk down Ica. So like, okay, wave clear is now gone. Can we stay and keep pushing? In this case, because Elements forced a fight, it was hard for Vitality. Kasing just saved Shook in the end. And then it's a kill. More for Vitality, mid tower is now super low. Top tower is another objective coming in for you, and then you start working around Baron. So let's see the fight again. Notice how instant to see Ica, they're like, go for him, he's the wave clear, poke him down, but don't overcommit. No one here is diving past the tower. They just chunk him down and say now Ica has a hard time joining the fight. Teamfight breaks out. Fine engage from Gilius getting onto Shook, but that's where the time can then save him in the very end. Pick up a kill, get a bit more damage on tower, then back away. So no overcommitting from Vitality. And Shook only got really far into the backline because Gilius shot him in there.
Do you think like Gilius and Elements actually need to carry on making these plays in mid game, because they are far behind right now? So with playing the hand that they're dealt, is this the best way to play out the game, or do they need to look at something else? Because it seems like the options are extremely limited in this game. Oh, that feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to the boring talk of like, hey, keep visioning your own jungle around Baron, so you can always move in and stop a potential Baron from Vitality, and then like farm for another 10-15 minutes. But I think you're right. I don't think that's necessarily like the best option, because you know Vitality knows how to play around Baron. Like, they buy so many pink wards as a team. Every time they go back, pink wards, pink wards, pink wards. Like, look at it, Baron now. There's like 4 pink wards around it. So it's just a matter of time before they force it. Might even get a pick onto Ica here. They get mid tower.
Tower goes down. Maybe a pick on
I like this.
That could be good. There's the culling. Body blocked by FLICKR. And Kasing was on the front line, so he wouldn't have been able to save him. But still, they pushed him away. And in the end, Vitality come up with another tower.
I think you're right, though, still. If Vitality ever do go too aggressive, Elements just gotta be ready to fight. Like, you can't just say, no, wave clear for another 10 minutes, then we fight. Because you're gonna lose Baron by then. You're not gonna get control of it. So I actually like the fact they're ready to engage on them and try and do something a little bit different.
Well, Ica in the mid lane has picked up the Rylai's now, so definitely more of a defensive build. Picked up the Augment on E, of course, so he can clear out those waves just a little bit better as Victor. Right now, when you have it unupgraded before that, it's very difficult to clear out the minion waves. The back line survives with a little bit of health. You have to weaken the front line. It's just not enough. So definitely something you want to pick up very early on into the game. On the opposite side, picked up the Ghost Blade with the more Mortius and just more penetration coming out from Nukeduck right now. Look at all those pink wards, by the way, on Vitality. Like, they're just setting up. They already have pink wards on the map, but when they start increasing their line of vision, they'll place down more. And this is one of like the hallmarks of like a good team from what we've been seeing. Like, we spoke about so much. Just Kasing as a single player, but now the team's coming in with it as well.
I mean, it's almost what every top team around the world is doing a lot of, is understanding that you don't need to wait for your pink ward to die to place a new one. It's fine to move it further in, because you just keep moving that line forward and forward. So they have now at Baron, they have one behind the Baron. They're just making sure Elements can't TP flank them. Not that you want to do that with a Graves and a Victor, but like, you are completely safe in the river. And if Elements gets pushed too far back, you walk into the jungle and you start threatening the Baron. Because that forces Elements to start face checking in towards you. You can start getting a nice engagement to them, or if they're too slow to react, you just burn down the Baron. We have seen that so many times in the EU LCS. The team is like running around mid lane, not really doing a whole lot. Baron dies. Because if you are just 2-3 seconds too late on a Baron call, on stopping a Baron, it's dead. There's enough damage on the side of Vitality.
Can very easily burn it down. Top lane Kavashot not opting towards the ZZ Rot or even the banner, just going straight up for those combat stats. Top lane, Steve went for that first Death's Dance, and basically nothing really Steve can do now.
No, and I agree with not going ZZ Rot. We talked about it last game. It's not that great against like Graves and some of these top or 80 carry top laners. Too easy for them to push it back and kill the portal. Just go full tank, you know, aim for team fights. Go full tank. ZZ Rod is a tank item, but just get the stronger tank items for team fights.
The dedicated tank items for team fights, absolutely. I think the caveat in that is if you're being pushed in as the Nautilus and you place it far back, it's hard for the AD carry top to take it down. In a situation like this, though, where you're pushing constantly, then yes, ZZ Rot will die very quickly to an AD carry. Last game, I think it was okay, but this time, definitely this is the right choice for Kavashot to make. Right now, Jungler just able to take away the dragon by himself because there's zero pressure and they have all of this vision control, all of this map control. To harken back to just a very small point in top lane, I feel like now with the nerfs to Grave Q with 90 less damage at maximum rank, or even a little bit more than that, once you get Sunfire Cape on the opposing top laner, I'm never going to get talked about it, but yeah, you actually outpush him. Like, he actually just doesn't do as much damage as you anymore. Your Q doesn't insta-clear a wave. You actually have to hit it a couple times, so that actually really hurts him from the early game, because one, it's not enough, and then when you hit max ranked, it's still not enough against the Nautilus, who will actually just out-wave you with the high base damages in from Riptides and Sunfire.
I think it's one of the big reasons Death's Dance gets built as a first item instead of like Ghostblade now.
Yeah.
Again, as we talked about, just more base AD coming in for your wave clear, compared to some of the stats Ghostblade will give you that doesn't really impact the wave clear. Still, we have Elements just kind of trying their best to farm what they can, wait for a few cooldowns. They have flash rated for Gillis now, so look for Flag Body Slam as an engage. Vitality has allowed them to do it as well, because they just want to complete the third item. Yarnan, super strong on Corki at this point. Kavashot becomes very hard to kill, also when he has a time kinch. Worst case, obviously you don't want to use that on Nautilus, and he's sitting ready, because now we start getting that Baron bait. We're getting far enough into the game where Baron is in. Fine option, wait for overextension from Elements, and then TP in behind them, and that's it.
I mean, yeah, the package is ready as well from Kiana. He's just waiting for someone to come near the Baron pit. Maybe like Gilius. Here comes the teleport from both top laners. Cabashot comes in. There's the depth charge. And Steve is right there tanking up the damage. But instantly, Kassin gets all those stacks, spits him out into the team. He'll go over the wall. That depth stance did not help him right there. Now Vitality are being chunked back as Ica comes in. There comes the death ray. But Kiana's already out of the fray. Sproul turns around trying to connect that Q. And Nuktuk is falling off. That sustained damage. Good disengage by Gilius. But now Elements just kind of want to get out of it. Ica will definitely take this Dark Patches back to the safety of his team, or relative safety, now that Vitality go to the top lane. But with all that pressure generated and the kill onto Steve, this will result in yet another tower.
Yeah, because Elements hasn't been able to push past their own river, or the river itself, at any point almost the last 10 minutes. Vitality had a wave coming topside, just grab it right after the fight. Only one kill for them, would have loved more, but they continue the domination. Big goal lead, almost 10,000 here to get top tower for it. This is what we mentioned, you know, set up that Baron. Elements will walk in to try and stop you, then you TP in with the home guards and you force that team fight. You don't even want the Baron specifically, you just want to fight. Steve does go down, but it's also tough for Vitality to move further in against the Victor. The damage he can deal in these small areas here in the jungle. And therefore it only ends in one kill, but then you have the wave on top that can just grab and get more.
Really right now it's just looking really bad for Elements, because they wanted these type of fights earlier on into the game where they have these team fighting compositions, but then Vitality who have more of this skirmish, and you know, obviously the Quinn better in like those 3-3 for example, in like bot lane or in the jungle. Now when you're in a situation with your team fighting composition where Vitality with the skirmish composition is beating you 5v5 in places where you should be coming out on top, these small corridors, you know, with like Ica ultimate, it's just, what can you do as Elements? Like, you are so far behind. You're almost 10,000 gold down in this game.
Yeah, again, either you try and stall for like 30 minutes and think that's a viable strategy, or again, you do the unexpected. You try and take a fight where it's Gilius trying to engage in and like catch someone out of position, and you play aggressive, but it's what you build with your composition. It's how you played your early game. It's the issue for Elements. And they obviously haven't found a solution yet, then they would start picking up more wins.
So let's reset to the draft and say they picked up Lee Sin in the jungle, they picked up Lissandra instead of Victor, and they actually tried to be proactive in the early game. Do you think that was the better way to play out this game, despite the Vitality composition? Does it go back even further to bans? Like, what should have happened for Elements?
I think the Lissandra Lee Sin was a fine option. Doesn't have to be Lissandra specifically, but I would have liked the Lee Sin pick. Just because, again, we have seen Elements time and time again play late game versus better teams, and they fall too far behind to execute the comp. Because as you said, if the team fighting late game comp is losing because they're 10,000 gold behind, the comp doesn't work.
Yep.
So, again, it's about like changing up some things. If you've been losing and losing and losing, you change. You don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over.
Hey, we saw it from Fnatic. Like, even middle of the table teams, like, everyone needs to adapt when things aren't working anymore, and before teams start figuring out, like even G2, they've been playing a lot slower now.
And this is where we have the moment where you start the Baron and the other team is now not ready because you've constantly been around that Baron. It's just a matter of time before they mess up. Spartel was recalling here, rest of Elements were kind of running around mid in the entrance to the jungle, and then you burn down that Baron. So it's been a long way coming, yes, but it was something we kind of saw coming, because it's so hard to keep that defensive vision lineup, to always spot the Baron over and over, and at some point it just breaks. It's so hard when you're so far down. And now with the Baron buff, Vitality are looking to really push into the base.
I mean, the only way that was really going to go well was with Gilius somehow managing to get a steal. Sprout wasn't even ranged to save him once he goes in, but Cabashot over the wall, they have the vision control, just clicks R on him, and he just couldn't get over the wall. So he was instantly pushed away. Like, this is just getting strangled out by Vitality, playing it perfectly, pushing in from all lanes, taking the jungle control. It's really just difficult as a team to play against this, especially from behind. You feel like you're being suffocated out of the game. Just taking a look at top lane, I wanted to mention it earlier, like, Last Whisper was picked up as a third item from Steve, now going towards Lord Dominic's regard. Do you feel like that is the right option to go? Because most of the armor and the tankiness is coming from Cabashot in the 1v1, but now we're starting to group up into these 5v5 fights, and a lot of the damage threats, right, are just all these squishy people in the back lines.
It's still that new build we see, where again, you don't get that early armor penetration, and you need some to deal with some of the tanks in the side lanes, because you are trying to have side lane pressure because of your teleport as as Graves. So you need to get a Last Whisper earlier to get some armor penetration in, because you go for a raw DPS or damage item not DPS, but like a raw AD item as your first one, and then Steric's Gauge or more as the second one. So it is just a natural course of the build, and a lot of top lanes in Europe have been building it this week, on Graves specifically. We haven't really seen it shine, I want to say. I haven't felt like Graves have been super dominating today.
I mean, it's definitely good for when you're ahead because, I mean, even when Steve completes this item build, he's not going to be able to dual camper shot still because of the massive gold deficit, because of how far he is behind in this game. If he was ahead and had it, then yes, I mean, we'd see explosive stuff, but when it's behind, you don't really see many things shine.
No, and now Vitality with the Baron buff. Slowly pushing up. You want to make sure that top lane is pushing in as well, so you can go catch the wave and buff it up with minions. And at this point, really, for Vitality, you still got to keep in mind, hey, you don't want to wait 20 minutes because you don't want to give elements the comeback mechanics.
Sure.
But that's definitely not, obviously, the case for Vitality. They just don't want to overcommit either against a Gragas ulti into like a Victor AoE combo on the tower. That can still hurt you. I mean, with 34 minutes in, so yes, you might be really far ahead, but never really want to overextend there. Definitely not doing what they did yesterday. I think Sean's had a bit of a word with him because we talked to him on the desk as well. He's like, he wasn't too happy with their random people dying against Giants in the end, even though they were so far ahead. Definitely a different players. Mentality, play mentality, form Vitality. Going well, you know, last game of the day.
Last game of the day, last game of the week. Before we go next week on to Katowice, top lane is being pushed in, mid lane there's the 4-1. Nuke Duck is going to win against literally anyone. He's picked up the Duskblade as well on top of his item build, so he's on 3 items versus Steve's also 3 items, but right now he's just kind of a band-aid in the bottom lane. Steve! Yeah, it's not a positive chant today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Spuddle.
More of a lament. Mid lane. Just poking them down. Just about down from Binding Assault just by itself. His tower's slowly going down. One auto tag, ticks down from the dragon.
Remember Dragon 2, yeah. Getting that slow burn, which is super good when you just get 1 or 2 hits on tower and you just let it burn out. Obviously, it helps a lot. Vitality is losing the Baron though, and they said, we do not apparently want to just finish this tower. I think they should just stay finish tower. Okay, they are, because Capucha is just going to have his home guard.
TP.
And TP.
Bam. That was like 1 auto attack.
I was about to say, it would have been really weird if they just backed away and be like, nah.
That's the fastest Nautilus I've ever seen. Man. Crazy. Now they're just back away. I mean, they don't need to finish this game super fast. Like, when you put a kind of later game composition behind, the time where they really start spiking gets pushed further and further and further back in the game time.
Still, like, you just don't want to get
Sure, you don't want to give them the option, but if you take another 5 minutes to close, it's not really going to matter. It means we're going to be standing here talking about them doing it for another 5 minutes, but it's slow, it's methodical, it's strangling out your opponents and just making sure you pick up the win. Definitely seems like an adaptation from when they played Giants, you know, where they start disrespecting and
Big
like,
difference.
You know what? We're just gonna siege this mid lane, we're gonna take this tower, we're gonna back away, we're gonna take every camp you own, the wolves, everything is being swept right now out of that jungle, and we're gonna just play it out slow. 2 minutes on Baron. Let's just clear out our jungle.
That's the hype moment.
That's the hype.
2 minutes.
A whole 2 minutes. The tick down. Doomsday device is ready to go, but I mean, I don't even know if Elements can contest it. Like, they have vision in the top side. They're still trying to. They have to contest it, but last time when we saw them, as you mentioned, the vision line broke, and it's so difficult to keep up against Vitality in this situation. I feel like the same thing's going to happen once again for Elements.
Yeah, Vitality's not going to allow them to walk in and ward up the Baron. They're just going to push up mid, and then obviously you also have the option of going Dragon if needed. Because you can potentially go to 5 dragons. I don't think they will, because again, that would take too long. But just stop Elements from ever getting to Baron, pressure mid, Baron respawns, then that's your second option. Just go back and take the Baron and force a fight again like you did before.
I just want to see Nautilus hit someone. There we go. Consecutive normal punches. Get him. Alright, cool. Inhibitor goes down over to Vitality. And they'll just keep poking away at the front line, and Gillis, he's just taking so much damage, but there goes the Inhibitor. Now there's pressure in the mid lane. ZZ raw height into the top side. It's like, if you're not going to build a counter shot, I'm going to build it. We need some minions in this game.
The ZZ run.
All right,
Not gonna do a whole lot.
Onto Ica. I feel like this is going to go too well for Elements. Sproul's now being chased down. He's got the Dust Blade on top of him, but Shook is actually the first casualty of the fight. Nukedog getting a little bit of damage onto Steve. He's going to get licked, though. There's the ultimate backing away. He's going to be flashing out of this fight, and Ica gets blown up by Nukedog on the sidelines of the fight. Now Gliss comes in once again. This might be the rallying call for Elements, or the rallying call to go back to base. And Sproul taking more damage from Hyun, and these long-range carries taking so much damage onto the enemy team, dealing so much of it rather. Steve also getting blinded. He can't run forward. He doesn't know what's going on. He's got a bird in his face. Now it's a 1-for-1 trade. Another inhibitor comes out. Vitality, the Baron is live. They can go back to base. They can pressure it. They can do whatever they want. The Rift is their oyster, Deficio.
I think the only play for Elements now is like hard push out mid and go in and like try and control river near Baron and take a fight there. Your base is now obviously destroyed. Super minions are gonna come in. Shook does go down. This thing ends up eating a couple shot. A little bigger champion size. He didn't click on the icon down on the right corner. Steve doesn't go down. Ica gets popped. Didn't flash away in time because of the extra burst coming. But like now for Elements, you push out mid because the super minions are already there. And then you're going towards the Baron, and like you have TP from Ica, so he's gonna respawn and be able to join, and you just take a 5-on-5. You can see they've been trying to do it. Gilles had put a ward in a small bush outside the Baron. One is inside, so they did actually push out and got something. But like, you gotta, honestly, you have to move out and just try and force a fight, take the Baron, recall, and then clear out the super minions. Like, it's almost your only way back in the game.
You can keep yelling Steve, but it's not gonna make it any better. 0-4-1. He's been farming a lot this game and is starting to itemize now, but even though he was starting to sting in that last team fight,
it has to be a steal right here.
Too far ahead, Gilius. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, there's so much single target CC. Now we're going to have a fight in the backline. Nukedog is just going Rambo. He's it happens to the best of us.
To be fair, he was blinded.
That is true. He could have jumped behind him.
You never know.
But you don't know. It's just it's literally a shot in the dark, or in this case, 30. Now Sproul's going to be absolutely just blasted off the face of the earth. Steve, he's pretty tanky and is actually going to be following over Ica. They might be able to pick up a shot. Nope.
Sing again.
Kasing exists in this game with Tam Kench. He's going to just do a little victory dance. Nukedog speeding down the middle lane. Got to go fast.
Revenge.
Get onto Rales. Take him out. Whoa, that was dirty. That was a lot of damage coming out from the Dust Blade. Now Ica is not quite the right place to place down the gravity field. Now is not a time to use that. Pop! Got him.
That was the Dust Blade. I mean, the other one he just destroyed.
No, he died. Basically, if you get a kill while it's ticking down,
sure,
it
resets still. So, I'm not even sure that was the damage.
So it doesn't
matter.
But Vitality strangle out Elements out of this game, and Vitality come up with a win here. They're going to dive for Nexus as well, because why not? Pat those fancy stats, make it happen. Good job, Shook. Didn't even die. Vitality, what a win.
Control by Vitality. Elements coming in playing the same style. Elements has been playing for a lot of the games. Vitality getting that pick in mid lane with Nukedog on Quinn. We've seen it time and time again. Gives mid lane control against his control mages. Mid lane control against control mages. Shouldn't happen technically, but that's how it goes. Of course it should when you play Quinn into Victor.
Very true. Ignite into TP as well. And Nukedog just played the mid lane matchup perfectly. Like, they abused the weak points on the team. But for me, I've got to go back into Elements, right? Like, we're expecting to play faster, looser, out of the gates, maybe play a different, faster composition. But for me, it boils down to champion select.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like, what to expect from Elements. You just expect a change, I guess, and like kind of doing the same over and over and then expecting a different result.
It's called insanity.
Is not really gonna give you anything when you play against the top teams. But then again, as we talk about so often, it's not about beating Vitality and H2K and G2 if you are Elements right now. You want to beat the teams around you and then see maybe against like Fnatic, Origin, Unicorns if you can pull an upset. So definitely not the game Elements were looking to win. But again, it's annoying when you pick up another loss.
Sure.
Luckily, the teams around them also lost. Spice lost
but
earlier
also
today.
went down with them.
So they're kind of staying in the same, and they're just all four teams are fighting for number 7 to avoid going to the promotion tournament. Like, that's basically what you're fighting for at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, just take the battles that you can really fight, you know, in this one.
Right.
So we'll see in future weeks how they do. There's going to be a break now, of course, with the next week. But Vitality, like, another great game from them, you know. And this time they actually just shored up some of those issues. Even if that was an issue, you know, in the last game against Giants, like, they played a little bit disrespectful. They got into late game. But still, in the early game, they didn't play disrespectful against them. They got that lead, and they could afford to screw around for a couple of minutes and still close out. In this one, they just played it super slow. It's like, we'll take an inhib, we'll chip away at the towers, we'll take Barons, we'll take absolutely everything away from them and make sure there is no chance of coming back into the game, and you can't fault them for it.
No, I mean, wait for the second Baron. 40 minutes in, just looking at items, and also why Vitality knew that so much time. IK on the Victor had 3 items completed at 40 minutes. You know, so we're not even close to a super late game Victor who can start really destroying everyone. Every other member from Vitality had almost stacked out fully on the items, and they were just so far ahead.
Well, we're going to hear more from Vitality's win as we send it stateside with Pyrotechnics.
Thank you very much. I am on stage with the jungler for Vitality's, in fact, Shook. So congratulations on your victory. Although you'd already locked up playoffs, you now know 4 of the teams that will be in playoffs, aside from yourselves, of course, G2 Esports, Unicorns of Love were able to secure it up today, and H2K. Now, who are you looking forward to facing off against in those playoffs, and I suppose why?
Like, we're Team Vitality, like, we have to beat everyone to be #1. Like, this team was built to be #1, so of course we're not afraid of facing anyone. Like, we have to beat everyone. If we don't beat everyone, like, we just don't see it as our team. Like, we're made for winning, so it doesn't really matter who we face.
I like it. Very, very confident, but also noting that you have to just beat absolutely everybody. So fantastic. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. You've now got a week off as well with IEM coming up. Only Origin Fnatic are going to be going representing EU. How are you going to spend that week? How important is it for a team playoff bound that you now are to have that week to kind of not have to worry about more matches on the table?
Like, some of our team are going home. Like, just have a little break. Of course, we're gonna keep on playing League. Maybe scrim some teams that go here for the event that's coming up, and yeah, just have a little break, practice against good teams, and yeah, we're still gonna practice, but we're looking forward to a little break.
Well, you've definitely earned it. So once again, congratulations on that win. Looking forward to seeing you guys in future weeks and in the playoffs. And for now, we are going to send it back to the analyst desk to wrap up that game and break it all down to end the week.
Thank you so much, Pyra. I always love listening to Shook because we were like, is this the super team in the beginning? And he always goes like, we are made for winning. We got to win everything. We got to beat everyone. We are the super team. And they are 6-0 over their last 6 games. Obviously, they are peaking at the right time. This break that's coming in now, will it actually do them good or not? Maybe if they get to scrim the likes of SKT, it could, of course, be even better for them.
Could do. I think if I was scrimming teams right now, I'd be like, give me QG. Just I want those scrims against QG because they're forcing early games. But honestly, for Vitality right now, gone seem to be the days of the first week where they lost to Rocket. I think all of those fears seem to have been quelled recently. So I think that Vitality are in a very good spot.
I actually don't. I don't know, man. If Vitality scrim QG, I think the game ends at 12 minutes because Vitality will just lane swap and then QG will be like, yeah, what is this? Teams actually know how to play this game in the early game? Wow, okay. We can't endlessly team fight?
We're going to have a lot of fun with the LPL teams at IEM. That's going to be fun to watch.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take a look at the standings actually to see where we are because playoff spots are being locked in. So let's take a look. Of course, we said already that G2, Vitality, and H2K have locked their spot in playoffs. With this Elements loss, also the Unicorns of Love have booked their spot. That means that there are only 2 spots left. And unfortunately, Giants are eliminated from playoffs. That's getting tight now. The UOL made it, and obviously Origin and Fnatic are within reaching distance.
But it's so likely that it's going to be Origin and Fnatic, obviously.
Spoiler.
So
He's playing it safe.
LCS confirmed scripted, but no, the teams that are right below Fnatic and Origin, they're improving, but at such marginal rates that it's not enough to even bridge that gap. Maybe they can pick up one surprise victory, but it's like a 3-game difference right there. If my 30-second memory is correct, and I mean, you're not going to bridge that.
We need one of the bottom 4 teams to enter week 8, go 2-0, and then go into week 9, go 2-0 as well. And we haven't seen any of these teams really show they could do anything against most of the top 6 teams. There's been like one upset here and there, and that's been about it. Even when the team is like, oh my god, they're winning this game, you know, they're so close to winning. And then in the end,
Giants today,
you know, they were so close. And then when it matters with the very last call you have to make, where everyone is kind of panic and also a little bit hype, you know, everyone is kind of yelling. Those calls goes wrong and they end up losing anyway. And again, that's just a mark of the top teams and the bottom teams.
Yeah, let's talk about that most recent lock-in for the playoffs. The Unicorns of Love again, hopeful today, actually. Sheepy was on the desk. We got to talk to him. He was very, very confident. We had Vishishashi doing well, which Fishy always likes.
I mean, we know Chachi's going to do well, even on a Ramos pick. Small moves, he wasn't even that impactful in this game, actually. The rest of Unicorns.
I still want to stress that, like that one macro play they did where they did the early TP when they were using the whole Rift Herald setup. I don't know, man. If you do that against a good team, I think you straight up like you lose so much momentum there.
But I think the thing is they didn't have to fully commit to it. They could have pushed up the wave.
I agree.
And then, moved to mid lane and kept Chachi bot lane to farm, because he actually fell pretty far behind from also TPing because he got 0 CS. That could definitely have been a change in that game. They got a tower, though, for it because Splice is like, they didn't want to mirror. They didn't want to mirror it.
Yeah, they
Corki is like,
They were just like, recall with the Corki. It's fine. We'll try and fight this. But honestly, the biggest thing today for the Unicorns was they just didn't get challenged at all by Splice. Like, Splice didn't want to make active plays on the map, didn't want to challenge any objectives, and I don't know where that leaves us with the Unicorns right now, because it's very difficult to have that read on a team when they are almost facing no opposition in a game.
Right, and I think also just for Unicorns, we're expecting them to beat those teams down there.
Yeah.
It's very important for them to keep doing it, because they want to lock in that 4th spot at the moment. You don't want to risk dropping down to being number 6, because if you are number 6 right now, as Origin are, you will face either G2, HUK, or Vitality in that quarterfinal match. So we have seen the clear top 3 teams, and we now see the middle of the pack with Unicorns, Origin, Fnatic. You definitely do not want to face one of those top 3 teams if you want to make it to the semifinal. So Unicorns have got to stay up there in number 4 or 5, avoid obviously going down to 6.
Not only that, 6 actually has the hardest road anyway. Even if you were to make it past that first team, there is a reseeding after the first round. So you then face the highest seeded team. So you then face number 1. Whoever you get, that's what bracket you end up in if you place 6.
I mean, that will likely just be Vitality, the way the season's playing out.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunate events with H2K, G2 one-dimensional, still struggling in the macro mid game. Vitality, they just look clean. Yes, their win against Elements, I think, was needlessly slow. But I don't think...
They're super safe.
Well, yesterday they maybe were a little too aggressive, and maybe they had a little talk with the coach.
Sean told them. He was sitting here being like, man, we gave over those 2 kills.
He found that belt over in the Gambit house. He brought it with him. It's like, hey, guys, this time, behave.
No, but I think we can all agree that Vitality looks the cleanest at this point. Of course, Youngbuck yesterday said about G2, we have more up our sleeve. We are learning more. There are different picks coming in.
But it's not the picks, it's just the approach to the mid game for me for G2.
So, my question is, do you see that happening? And do you think that G2 can adopt 1 or 2 more styles and then rise above by playoffs?
Well, it's ironic because Perk's comments was if you can only play one style, you're a bad team. Basically, was the TLDR. And if they can't, then it's kind of going up against what they said earlier.
Well, again, with G2, it's not the pick and ban phase. I don't even think it's about specifically only playing one style of composition, because they have like 3-4 different comps they've been showing, some poke comps here and there and whatever. Perks on Lissandra now, very aggressive. It's more just the team needs that kind of guy who's saying, like, what's the next play and how do we set up for the next play? Once you get into mid-game, once you get that goal lead. So like, okay, guys, remember to buy pings. When Vitality's playing, every back, there's like 4 or 5 pink wards. Every back. That's something I feel like is very easy to teach a team, and also very easy to learn as a team. It's actually just start thinking about it. So some of the issues G2 does have, I feel like are fairly small, but if you don't fix them, it looks bigger in game.
It also trickles down. I mean, you initially have that one little part where, you need to pick up 5 pink wards. That sounds easy. And then you need to communicate with your support. Like, how many side wards do you have? Like, let's look at the map. Where do we want our wards? Plan ahead instead of just walking in, placing 2 wards and like, the side stone, it's empty. Let's set that up again. So, especially as we get far into the season, G2 came out swinging. Very few teams really understood the vision game, but as we progress, we see teams finding optimal play patterns. I mean, how often do we not see Kasing just base, refill side stone, come out? Vander does the same thing. So that is something where G2, regardless of what style they're playing, whether it's poke siege, whether it's skirmish, whether it's split push, they need to perfect that mid game so they can actually play from even. I think, because very often they were so good in the early game that they played from ahead, and that creates nasty habits.
And I think it's really good they have lost a few games, because they're still setting that tide for first. Because when they were winning, everything was awesome. Just keep playing the way you're playing.
Everything was awesome.
Yeah, again, keep picking the same champions because it's going well. You don't really have that wake-up call where, why did we lose? We didn't do this and this in the mid-game that other teams are doing. Now they've been losing a few, been struggling a little bit against some of the other teams. It's healthy. Learn from it this week. Again, I'm sure Youngbuck is going to talk to the players and make sure they have it ready for week 8 and week 9 or for playoffs.
I think one thing that has been pleasantly surprising for G2, though, is that overall our expectations of Kikis coming into the split were like, he'll only play tanks, he'll only succeed against top laners on tanks. At least against the majority of the top laners, he's able to play more than just tanks. I don't think he's ready for that against like a Cabo or perhaps an Odo, somebody that is going to fight you very, tough in that top lane. But he's been doing well.
Yeah, it doesn't have to though, because the meta is completely shifting towards tanks top right now. Somebody said it on the desk today.
Yeah.
Coach.
Oh, who said it?
I don't know.
No,
I can't
they said
remember.
it about Freddy specifically.
Yeah, but
also,
I think it
just
was
happened,
Yamato
like,
probably because
literally 30 seconds ago.
yeah, it's just
doing
like
this.
the meta is shifting towards tanks, and
Yeah.
then some of these pure tank players like Untara as well that we were saying, why is he only playing tank tops? He's like laughing right now because haha, predicted the meta game. So it should be all right for Kikis going into playoffs.
Yeah. Interesting. G2, you say, well, they were winning a lot, then they kind of had to pick up the slack when they started losing and made some adjustments. H2K, good from the beginning. Vitality, good from the beginning, great right now. Then we have those
I mean,
teams.
they lost in Rocket day one.
That's true.
Shaky beginning.
Shaky beginning.
After week
Shaky.
1. But then week 2 was better and
I
then it
think
was
everything
good.
but week 1, day
yeah,
1.
day 1. Remove that one and then it's been pretty good.
Good. And then we had Daylor here on the desk, and it was really interesting that he said, it's not about going like this for us. It's about looking where we can go for Fnatic then. Looking where we can go. If it doesn't work out, we go back to square one and we look what can work for us. We go up again. And that's why it's a long-term project.
Eventually, it has to start working though, and I feel Fnatic is really lacking that same thing that G2 is lacking. That one guy, the overarching voice, because you can be like, okay, Reckless, you give it a shot. Yeah, not really working out. Let's replace our support. This guy who's still working on it. Maybe Fev and start shot calling. But eventually, like, if you don't find that guy that can actually take control of a full roster and move these little chess pieces around on the board, then you will be very stunted in your growth.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is, now it's a good point, we try and expand into certain things. If it doesn't work, we go back to basics. I don't feel like the basics have even been there for Fnatic in all the games. I think that's been one of the main issues, is that some of the very normal things we see from professional teams in terms of, buying blue wards, like blue trinkets and like vision control, lane swaps, don't split push to enemy inhib at like minute 12 when you're level 8 or 7 or whatever. Like those basics, those are basics to me, and there have been some issues Fnatic have struggled with. They've actually been doing well when they get kind of pushed out of the comfort zone and then got in super tricky situations where they're down like 10k gold almost at 20 minutes. That's when this Fnatic lineup has kind of come online, and they've had some crazy comebacks. We need to see more from Fnatic, but again, we are also very harsh on them because they are Fnatic. Had this been another team with these 5 players, we wouldn't have been so critical on this team. So, hey, they are currently sitting as number 5. They're in the playoffs or almost in the playoffs. Need to win like one more game. I think Fnatic is happy enough with the current performance.
Indeed, they need to win one more game. Of course, they're going to Katowice next week. Let's talk a little bit about that together with OG. It was quite interesting to me that when the Clyde change came, we heard, hey, IM Katowice is coming up, so we had to make a change. Now we asked Daylor here, you asked him what is the goal, and he said, we will see, first pick up some practice and then see where we go. So that has definitely changed. How do you think our teams are going into that?
For Fnatic in particular, they're going to have such a rough... so for people that are unaware, they're in Group B. Their first match is against Jagu Reapers, who, if you're not aware with that team, very poor in the early macro. They kind of fall a little bit behind early, but then their team fights are on point. They're just really good at forcing those team fights and seemingly forcing your opponents to kind of opt into that style. And I don't think Fnatic is as crisp just yet in that regard, and I feel they will have kind of an impossible mismatch because the counter to Jagu Reapers is good macro play, and Fnatic doesn't offer that.
For clarity, we'll bring up the groups first, so people who may not have seen them yet can know, because of course next week, week 8, will be in Katowice for Fnatic and Origin. We're going to start by taking a look at Group A, which has Ever, TSM, Royal, Never Give Up, and...
Best name ever, by the way. Royal, Never Give Up.
And then in Group B, we will have SKT, Fnatic, CLG, and the QG Reapers, and it is double elimination in each bracket as well. It looks tough for the European teams in that one, for sure.
I do want to say, though, when it comes to Fnatic versus QG, if Fnatic plays what we saw like last week, that kind of style where you're trying to go late game and you try and team fight your way out, they will lose. Because QG is so good at late game team fighting. But Fnatic today changed a lot. Actually surprised us in the pick and ban phase. It was a lot more focused on mid game. The Lee Sin, Lissandra combo between Febivan and Spirit was absolutely fantastic to watch how they could camp the mid lane and also set up picks further in. Okay, Rocket didn't put up any wards to spot them, but I think if that is a test or an example of how Fnatic might approach IEM and a team like QG, then I think Fnatic can actually hurt them quite a bit, especially in the early to mid game, because that was a fairly clean game by Fnatic, this one. I like that style.
It was clean, but there was a massive overextension repetitively from Betsy.
I'm not saying they weren't mistakes, but QG makes those mistakes. Like today they lost to Royal Never Give Up 2-0.
Yeah, that kind of screws everything. Because
randomly just running out mid lane and dying multiple times.
Yeah, coming in today, we're like, yeah, Royal Never Give Up, kind of slouching, just not that good. But QG, they're team to watch, and then they lose, and then everything goes out the window.
So I
just like China does every time.
Fnatic's playstyle today, Fnatic's playstyle today is what they need to have for IEM. Not the let's go 60 minutes and just try and like late game team fight against SKT and QG and so on.
But you look at some of the tougher competition Fnatic have faced, like the G2 game. If they end up in that situation, I don't think teams are going to make the mistakes that G2 did against Fnatic to let them back in the game, as you said. I think Fnatic were fairly gifted that game. I think, yes, they will make mistakes, but I think especially in the scenario of the last couple of games for Fnatic where they've really had to fight back into a game, I feel like the game is likely to close by that.
So play today's style.
Right, but can they get that? That's the real question is how can they manage when they maybe don't know the team so well?
And provided they lose, obviously double elimination, under the assumption that CLG loses to SKT, we actually have a cool matchup there too. CLG playing.
What are you assuming here?
Yeah, just bold assumption here that the reigning world champions will knock out any team. But yeah, CLG playing there. I like what they bring to the table because they seem to play more macro-oriented, very split push with Darshan there in the top lane. And I want to see how Fnatic can deal with that, how they can react with that, because I think that's just a really cool stylistic matchup. So I kind of hope to see that matchup. Either in the winner bracket if they both surprise, but more likely in the loser bracket for both.
Yeah, we definitely have two EU teams going into IEM not being favorites by any means.
No.
Like, there's honestly almost no pressure on Fnatic and Origin because nobody expects anything from them here. You have QG, who was the best team in China coming into this week.
Yeah.
You have Royal Never Give Up, who just beat QG, so I guess we can put them top now. They're leading their group in the LPL as well. SKT has been slumping, but it is SKT still, and they've been playing against some very tough competition over in Korea. Okay, the Africa loss they had was super weird, but still. There are a lot of other teams we're looking at, ranking above OG and Fnatic, which should mean you're here to learn stuff if you are Europe.
And that was going to be my point for you guys, because obviously having played on at least the European, if not bigger stage, how much experience for a new team like Fnatic will they be able to take from an event like this, just from having more stage time against varied opponents?
Stage time, I don't think is the most important part. I think it's the scrimming part, because I think one thing is looking at a VOD of like SKT, and you're like, oh, I understand the play they're making. Let's try and do the same. You don't get all the small details that often happens, also because the camera can only follow so many things. When you play against them yourself and a play happens against you, you have that VOD you can go over, and that's where you learn some of the small details you then bring back to Europe, and other teams don't do that, and that's where you can learn quite a lot.
Yeah, that is the cool thing. Like, in a scrim environment, especially centralized within a region that you then don't get any access to other regions, you get so many gentlemen's agreements almost. Like, Europe, every season, the lane swaps will eventually come to a certain way that they get played out. Or early games get assumed to get played out. When you watch SKT, the camera isn't always on FLICKR, but that doesn't mean you like the matchup will play out the way it does, because if you play against FLICKR, you can guarantee that he will walk up on every CS. Suddenly your mid laner in a matchup that you think in your strategy in Europe generally goes even, might suddenly lose, and that shifts everything around. So the experience of just playing these very strong teams from other regions with different scrim habits, with different play patterns is invaluable, because if you can take one of their plays and save that up, that's something you can use somewhere
Sadly, we don't have the Rocks Tigers here.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where you can learn stuff right now, and not really the way SKT's been
across
playing.
the board, we may not have some teams that we would say are the strongest in the respective regions. I think that's a valid point that you bring up, and something I personally overlooked. It's not just Fnatic and OG that get access to those special scrims, but people here who've made the connections in our teams also have the opportunity to scrim those teams that are finally in Europe.
Even because they're not even in the tournament. You know, if you're coming in here as QG, I think you can get your pick of the litter of any European team. SKT as well. I mean, yes, SKT is slumping, but who's gonna say no to scrim with SKT?
I mean, Rio is just gonna ask them, and H2K is playing them.
Yeah. Probably.
Right there.
If we end up seeing, funnily enough, the QG Vitality scrims, do you think QG could learn something from Vitality about your lane stops at the beginning? In that situation, do you then have a fearsome QG that can do both?
I mean, looking at Worlds historically, it's taken China a while to adapt to Western lane swap or at one point the Korean lane swap, because they always look really strong in certain aspects, but it just seems like nobody in that region actually adapts to the lane swap meta very well, and they make peculiar choices there, and that kind of shifts our perspective whenever we watch a game. Like, oh, they're doing this wrong, they're doing that wrong. If they can learn in a week's time, I'll be very impressed though.
So, who wins IM Katowice?
Cool. That's a...
I mean,
No sounds, just...
normally you could very easily just say SKT,
yeah.
but like with the way SKT's been playing coming into the tournament, it's not been looking that great. I was looking at China in many ways in this, both QG and RNG, and kind of saying like this was the tournament where China had to kind of bounce back on the international stage after what happened at Worlds, where obviously the teams disappointed so much. RNG, after the 2-0 win today, might look like they're the favorite, honestly, coming in, but they are a team who relies so much on snowballing early game with Mata, putting them deep vision, and they make some stupid mistakes. But so does Fnatic and Origin. Like, obviously, a lot of the teams at IM will do that. RNG can really punish you if you are a slow early game team, and that could make them one of the favorites.
Yeah, definitely one of the favorites, especially like Xiaohu and MLXG, jungle mid combo. Just the first few weeks when I watched Royal Never Give Up, they just had impressive synergy. Like, really, really fun to watch what they could actually do in terms of destroying the enemy mid laners. And they went up against like some really solid mid laners there. So for me, the tier 1 teams coming in here are, QG, RNG, and then SKT, because I think with the Gragas being reintroduced in the meta, it relieves some pressure off Bengi. SKT, you can never count them out from an offline tournament. It's still always just that little bit different. Obviously, they're so used to traveling as well, because China will fly over here. Maybe jet lag will influence them again. SKT is such a seasoned team in terms of just international travel.
It's always the safe one to pick. You know, like, oh, SKT is going to do well.
So for me, actually, I will just say SKT will win it.
Okay.
I think for me, I honestly feel like QG in a week can pick up phase 1 and most of phase 2 of the lane swap that's done here. I actually think if they can just solidify that, then they should be able to fight, because we're not sending the top teams from Europe. It's not the top teams from the LCK. It's not the top North American teams. So as long as you don't lose too much in the early game, their team fighting, I think, can hold them through.
Obviously, Ever. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I have no idea.
Ever is going to be super dark horse coming in, because yes, they look very good in the off season. They're in
players back.
They're in Korean Challenger. Got Key back, one of the star players on this lineup. His Bard is fantastic, by the way. You're gonna
you don't have to convince me. You're
going to love it. But it's hard to judge Ever, because, again, they are playing in Korean Challenger. Currently second place, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah, they should be
They're
second.
tied for first on points.
Tied for first, right. Okay. I think Ever is going to be a good team, but I don't want to put them in the tier 1 among the other teams, because it's been such a long time we've seen them against other top teams.
My problem for me is they're playing some weird stuff. They've played like Malzahar in 2 games, lost 1, won 1, played like Ryze after the nerf. I don't really have a good measuring stick on where they are from their weird pick and ban phase.
One more thing. Out of Group B, SKT, Fnatic, CLG, QG, Reapers, who can Fnatic beat 100%? And out of Ever, TSM, Royal, OG, who can OG beat 100%?
No one.
Put the money on?
Oh...
There is no one these teams can beat 100%.
100% is a tough one. But I'd say it's favored OG in the TSM matchup.
Ha! Forgot about that one. It's in there again. I don't know how it always keeps happening. Oh, even there?
Even there?
They're looking rough, man.
I think both teams are looking super rough.
The one cornerstone for Origin, Sven, he's actually starting to go down as well. So as a complete coin flip. It's like heads we win, tails we lose. And TSM at least is on the up and up, I feel. A tiny bit.
TSM just keep doing this thing where their early game is okay, and then they're just like, okay, well, we don't know how to control side lanes, so let's just go to the mid lane and try and 5v5 again and again and again.
I mean,
I don't know.
It doesn't matter because they won't make it out of group. I think Ever and RNG will make it out of that group.
It's the kind of matchup where you can by no means already point out a favorite to that one. So, like, there's no team or Origin and Fnatic 100% favorites to win in this tournament.
Cool. Thanks for answering my question. And now for a look at the week's standout performances here in Berlin.
No, I feel bad.
Yeah, we got to go to Quick Shot.
We're shooting down Europe now.
We got to go to Quick Shot.
Thank you guys very much. Nobody over there is a favorite for now, but I know somebody who is a favorite. IM Katowice will have to wait just a second. Your favorite fantasy LCS player for the week is G2 Esports Emperor. He managed to pick up 37 fantasy points, playing 2 games of Lucian, 11 kills, 7 assists. Making my life difficult. I actually pieced out of fantasy about 2 weeks ago when Deficio took me down. And as we're getting closer and closer to playoffs, you guys keep fiddling with your fantasy rosters, we need to award some OP5 players. And we're going to kick this one off with somebody who landed a plethora of death sentences. It is Hylissang from the Unicorns of Love. 92% kill participation today, 14 out of the 16 kills. And if we just look at some of the hooks, he literally swung, wound up, and connected against so many players all day long. There we go, the clip's finally lining up at the end, and just finding key targets over and over. And for a team like UOL, who really started to struggle, picked up a loss yesterday, I think it's important for their morale and their team spirit, especially as he's one of the shot callers. I'm going to move on to the second OP5. It is, of course, the front man for Fnatic. It is Febiven. He picks up 28% of his team's damage. He played Gangplank and Lissandra. And despite a challenging game against H2K yesterday, really turned it back around today with Lissandra. And it was partially because he was enabled by another Fnatic member, Spirit, of course. Gragas and Lee Sin, 6, 3, and 12 on the week. And Spirit really had a great impact in terms of the game, helping out his team, picking up a multitude of ganks. And of course, who's going to forget the Baron steal right at the end there with the Lee Sin. So Fnatic end up picking up a win against Roccat. That's 3 down, 2 to go. Next up, we have to talk about Betsy. He is our statsman, Spellsy's favorite player in the European LCS. He went 7, 2, and 3 yesterday as Corki. Played in Navia today, which wasn't great, but I was a big fan of how he uses the package to pick up that win. And finally, rounding out the OP5 for the week is a man that was lobbied for very heavily by Deficio. It is Kasing. Going to give you some interesting stats for him. He places on average 12.5 pink wards per game. That's an average of around 940 gold, which is 10% of his total gold per game. That is a whole lot of money just on pink wards, not including sight stones, not including Eye of the Watchers or anything similar. And over the 14 games, he spent 14,000 gold just on pink wards. That's it for the OP5. There's one award left to hand out. It is the MVP. We're going to head over to the analyst desk for that one.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Indeed, still one award to give out. Let's give it away right now. Looking to make the biggest impact on his team in their last 4 matches of the Spring Split. Today's fantasy leader, as well as MVP for us, Emperor of G2, 14 kills, 13 assists over 2 games as Lucian. He's our Week 7 MVP, and you know, as it often goes, for instance, with Vitality, you always look at Cabochard doing well and a lot of players, and Emperor is one of those guys who's been really doing well steadily in the entire season so far for G2, and a nice MVP.
I think what I like about him recently is that he's making a lot of plays with aggressive gap closers. So we had that phase, I think, where he was Ezreal shifting over the wall to clean up a fight against the team last week, I think. Then this week, just aggressive Lucian dashes constantly. He's not afraid to go in. And more importantly, what impressed me in the early parts of the season, obviously that doesn't get you an award, is just combined with Hybrid, the ability to play losing matchups and go even. I think that's actually something that's very underrated, because very often the camera would pan to Kikis, you know, or Perks making plays, or jungle just AFK farming and getting ahead there, tricking the jungle, but then Emperor and Hybrid would be on an island and they would play a losing matchup, but still go even.
He plays a style G2 likes to play. Like, that fits him perfectly. Very aggressive, sometimes a little bit too aggressive, but if you are ahead in gold, you can often pull it off anyway, and he fits the team extremely well. Another guy that also like Trick, it's the same deal. You know, both Koreans on this lineup, they like to play in the enemy jungle, in the face of the enemy, often not thinking too much about what could potentially happen when they make the plays. So like, he also had a great week, of course, but Emperor gets the MVP.
Yep, and they get a week to go on cooldown, as the European LCS will as well, so the teams can compete over in Katowice. But the Spring Split continues on Thursday, March 10th, with a clash between Fnatic and the Giants. Unicorns of Love will square off against Origin, and Vitality will take on G2 in our match of the week. Wow, super stacked coming back there. Vitality G2, of course, as well. And very important, they have locked in their spot in the playoffs, but they will not want to let down.
Exactly.
What you were like?
No, I wanted to admit,
He was
like,
pointing with his pen.
I was basically like the thing about this matchup that is so important now is fighting for top 2, because it automatically gets you top 4. You are locked in to go to Rotterdam and everything. So losing this matchup is probably the deciding thing for who gets that top 2. And I don't know, all these pens here.
I think the matchup right after that is interesting too. Splice versus Elements. Both teams in 4 wins. It's the race for 7th place.
Yep.
And may not be very exciting for you guys at home. But
not as shiny as for top 2. But
if you're in one of those teams, you really do not want to go to relegation.
It's the worst ever.
Yeah, definitely. Don't recommend it. If you can avoid that, it's just such a relief off your shoulders, and you can take a well-needed break and then kind of beat the other teams to the punch when it comes to preparing for summer.
Yep, that's a break for those teams, but Week 7 isn't over yet. Across the Atlantic, the North American LCS has their match of the week this Sunday between CLG and Cloud9. And aside from that, the action gets started tomorrow with Team Impulse versus Team Liquid. What of those other matches are you guys looking forward? Of course, that marquee matchup looks good as well.
I'm also looking at Immortal CLG. CLG have got the toughest North American week possible. Immortals and C9 before Katowice. If ever there was a warm-up for then stronger competition on an international stage, CLG could come out of this with a lot of momentum. It could also backfire.
I'm just going to look at Froggen. He just came back swinging, opening well in a couple of Corki games there, and just has looked great so far. We saw one on Nivea today on Betsy. I mean, there's no reason it can't come back. And
I like how it's still Froggen. It's like Betsy's pick. You know, we always highlight the Nivea.
I've just been playing so much Nivea in solo queue, and I'm just in love with the pick overall. I really love the Rod of Ages Athene CDR boots build. I think it's fantastic.
Betsy didn't do it though.
No, that
he delayed his build with it.
He also went late Roa, and then he went Honey Guys. Unlucky. But I really just want to see more Froggen, more Nivea.
I'm joining Stress. I want to see CLG Immortals, and then also CLG, of course, against C9, because we also need it for prep. When it comes to IEM, we want to see what CLG is doing in these tough matches, and if they can do exactly the same, or if there's any weaknesses we can highlight, obviously, and other teams can highlight.
That's why they play, so we can have some prep.
Exactly, that's the only reason they play.
Indeed. Anyway, for us here in Europe, it is time to look towards Poland and then Week 8 of the Spring Split. I want to give a huge, huge thank you to all the coaches that helped out here on the desk. We got some amazing insight, and thank you all of you guys at home for tuning in as well. Until next time, good night and GG.
Esports are already in the playoffs, and Origin are fighting for their chance to prove their worth.
Origin aren't done yet.
No, they're not, but the inhibitor will be. 1 or 2 more autos is all it needs. Oh! Shockwave secures a triple kill. Oh, let's see, can they find Spin? They hooked it! Hybrid follows it with a flash and Death Sentence. Spin is pulled into the middle of the team and taken out. G2 may have just won the game, and G2 pick up their 11th win. Baron did not reset. In actual fact, it's going very, very low. HCK decide to re-engage. Baron's picked up by Giants.
Too much fight now. I ulti Corki.
Kick to me. That's 2 more kills for H2K. The Nexus turrets fall. Forgiven continues to prove why he's one of the best AD carries in Europe.
Not the what do you mean one, the other one.
Love yourself?
Love yourself, yeah.
Okay, so. My mama don't like you and she likes everyone. This one?
Yeah, keep going. I'm getting hyped.
Wait, that's Justin Bieber?
Yeah.
I actually did not know.
Yeah, it's good.
A flash forward as Fox is trying to siphon power, and another Death Sentence. Kobe flashes over the wall. Here comes Chachi. The Unicorns of Blood take down Splice.
Spirit's gonna have to go out for the steal to make it happen, and he comes over the wall and actually gets it.
Oh, pentakill! Go pentakill! Go pentakill! You got this! You got this! You got this!
Continue!
You got this! Yeah!
Good job! They're going in again. Urban jumps in with the glacial path. There comes the W. Everyone's being locked down. Are we taking the win over Rocker? Gillis comes in for the engage. Nice flash E and the ultimate, but he's being bursted so quickly. Nuke Dog speeding down the middle lane. Gotta move fast. Revenge! Get on to Rales. Take him out. Whoa, that was dirty. But Vitality strangle out elements out of this game.